Okay, here we go. Ladies and gentlemen, I need you to listen now. Okay, so we are still solving quadratics, but instead of factoring, we're solving quadratics by taking square roots. So we're going to solve quadratics by taking square roots. Now, before we do any kind of math, over the last week and a half or so, we've been factoring, right? And how did we know when we needed to solve along with factoring? When you had an equal sign and it was set equal to 0, right? We factored and then we set each of those factors equal to 0 to solve. Okay, so that equal sign tells us that we're going to be solving. And when I say solve, what does that mean specifically? Find whatever x equals or a equals or whatever your variable is. Okay, solve for your variable. So standard form of a quadratic equation, this is going to be important. You already know it. What is standard form of a quadratic equation? What's our general form? How about I start you off? What if I give you ax squared? What comes after that? Plus bx plus c. Okay, so standard form of a quadratic equation is ax squared plus bx plus c. But we learned while we were factoring we could maybe not have a c, we might not have a b, right? That was okay not to have all those pieces, but we were still able to factor, right? Okay. So let's just back it up for a second. And do we remember how to simplify a radical? So can you simplify that radical? Yeah? Should we do one together, or you think you can do this one on your own? You can do it? Okay, so I want you to try. I want you to simplify that radical. So no decimals. It should be in simplest radical form. So someone walk me through how you solve and simplify, or how you simplify the square root of 72. Go ahead.
I did like factor tree. 8 and 9.
Okay.
And then 9 goes down to 3 and 3. And then 8 goes down to 2 and 4. And then the 4 goes down to 2 and 2.
Perfect. Okay, you could have used something else other than 8 and 9, right? And that's okay, but you should still have the same factors. From there, we're going to pull out our pairs. So we circle our pairs. The 2 comes out. The 3 comes out. And this 2 stays inside. The leftover stays inside. So final answer is going to be 6 square root of 2. Why don't you try these 2 for me, and then we'll move on past this. But it looks like we remember how to simplify a radical. Okay, if I break down 150, 15 and 10, not 50 and 10, right? 15 and 10. 15 breaks down to 3 and 5. And then 10 breaks down to 2 and 5. Remember that your pair does not have to be next to each other. So I have a pair of 5s. That 5 comes out. And what's left inside? 3 and 2, which is 6. So is my answer 5 squared root of 6? No. I need to multiply by that 4 that was already chilling outside. So 20 square root of 6 should be your answer. Okay, and then 30 breaks down to 6 and 5, and 6 breaks down to 2 and 3. I agree. Where are my pairs at? There's none, so what's my answer? Negative 5 square root of 30. If you cannot break it down, it stays as is. Okay. So we should be really good at simplifying radicals by now. We literally have been doing it all year long, right? Okay. So I want you to use your best judgment, and I would like you to solve x squared equals 9. So what do you think you would do? Use your best judgment. If you need to talk to somebody, you can. But what would you do to solve x squared equals 9? What do you think x is going to be? Okay, so do what you think you need to do to solve x squared equals 9. If you need to talk it out, talk it out. This is good. Talk it out. Talk out how you would solve x squared equals 9.
I got you. We do with x2.
Okay, let's come back. Let's come back. Santana. I just heard you talking with your group. So what did you guys come up with? Or the people around you, what did you come up with?
They said,
Did you write it down?
no.
Oh, well that doesn't do you any good.
I was asking Amelia if she can help me.
Okay, so who can give me?
Amelia.
What?
Cassidy can help me? Okay, so Cassidy, what did you guys do? Okay.
So, you have to cancel out the second power, so you put a square root over the x and the 9. Right? Yeah. And then you factor it out to get 3. And then x equals 3.
Okay, so in order to get rid of a square, you have to take the square root. And whatever you do to one side, you have to do to the other side, right? Those are basic rules from Algebra 1. Okay? So if I plug that in, 3 squared is definitely 9. What if I told you there was a second answer? Oh, Manny says he told you.
Kidding. No, I'm just kidding.
What if I told you there was a second answer? Do you believe me? No. No. Okay, well, it's definitely, there's,
Right, say it again, say it out loud. No.
who said it?
No. It sounded like someone said the answer. Yeah.
It is negative 3. Because what is negative 3 squared? Positive 9. So, we're going to write our answer as plus minus 3. Plus minus 3. That means I have a positive 3 answer and I have a negative 3 answer. So I want you to make a note to yourself. Okay, shh. I want you to make a note to yourself. Put a star, whatever you need to put. Here's our note. When solving by taking square roots, you always have 2 answers. Plus answer and a minus answer. Okay, so when solving by taking square roots, you're always going to have 2 answers, a plus answer and a minus answer. Once you're done writing that, I want you to put your pencils down because I'm going to show you something on the screen, and maybe you'll be like, oh, and it's all going to connect. Would you agree that x squared equals 9 is not currently in standard form? Right? Because we said standard form was ax squared plus bx plus c. It's not currently in standard form because it has that equal sign in between. So I could theoretically subtract 9 from both sides, right? And get x squared minus 9 equals 0. You're not writing this down, I just want you to watch. Do you agree with that? I subtracted 9 from both sides and got x squared minus 9 equals 0. If you didn't know this, how would you solve that? The super x. Okay. So if I use the super x, what is a? What is b? What is c? Okay, so on top is 1 times c, which is negative 9. On bottom is 0, on bottom is b, which is 0. I'm looking for two numbers that multiply to 9, negative 9, and add to 0. 3 and negative 3. So my factors are x plus 3 and x minus 3 equals 0, right? I would set each factor equal to 0. We spent a lot of time doing this. And x equals negative 3 and x equals positive 3. How much nicer is it to do square roots than to have to factor this particular type of problem out? Right? It's a lot easier. So, over the course of the next month, I'm going to show you literally 4 different ways to solve. And you're going to have to show me that you can do all of them. And then eventually I'm going to give you a problem and I'm going to say you do you. And you use one of those 4 methods. Okay? The nice thing about this method is if you can isolate the x squared, you can just take the square root of both sides and you have a plus minus answer. If you don't remember to do that, I can go back to factoring. Some of you were good at factoring. Some of you not so good. So maybe factoring is not like the thing you go with. But do you see how it works? Yeah? Okay, so I literally said this is all we're doing today. So I'm going to give you a couple to try. And then we'll call it a day. Okay, so I want you to find what x equals in all 3 of these cases. So I'm actually going to give you a couple more because I want to talk about something else. But I gave you some basic ones, right? You took the square root of both sides, and as I walked around, I think everyone had that. What's the first thing you tried? What did you do, though? You plugged it into your calculator, right? You tried to see if that was a perfect square, and all of these in this case were. So what's the square root of 169? So you should have x equals plus or minus 13. If you take the square root of 100, what's the square root of 100? 10. X equals plus or minus 10. If I take the square root of 225, I get x equals plus or minus 15. Okay, let me give you one last one. I promise this will be the last one. Okay, I want you to find the square root of 84. I want to see what your answer is going to be. So, I like that you took the square root, and I like that you started breaking it down. So what did you break it down to? 12 times 7? And then 3 and 4, and 2 and 2. So you had a pair of 2's that came out, right? And then the 3 and 7 stay inside, giving you 21. So did you say your answer was x equals 2 square root of 21? No?
No.
What is it?
X equals plus minus 3 squared.
Perfect. So anytime you take the square root, you have to have a plus minus. If you miss something, that's what you're going to miss. Okay? Plus minus every time you take the square root and you're solving. Plus minus. And it always comes before, yeah. Because technically this breaks down to 2 square root of 21 and negative 2 square root of 21. If you had to type them in, like if I asked you, I think on Edgelastic though it has a plus minus button. But if for whatever reasons, whatever you're taking doesn't and it asks you for 2 answers, your first answer is the positive, your second answer is the negative. Okay? Not too bad? Easy lesson for a Friday? Okay.